All
Hello,
right.
online pipe community. This is Ethan, Parsimonious Piper, and today I have got Scott, Night Train Piper, with us. How are you doing today?
Doing fine. It's a wonderful morning here in Southern California where I live.
Well, speaking of Southern California,
Um,
tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and etc.
all right, sure. So, yeah, I'm uh, living here in Southern California. I've been living here for um, wow, 35 years, I think, something like that. So, originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, where my father worked in the nuclear industry, and so he moved us there from the state of Washington. So I've been kind of steadily moving south my whole life. Um, we lived there until I was about 18 and went to college. Uh, we moved there when I was two. And so when I was young, we went camping a lot, went to the California national parks like Yosemite and other places in Idaho and Washington, Oregon. So I grew up with a love of nature and just fishing, hunting, you name it. So when I went to college, biology was a main interest. And so I went to college down in San Diego at Point Loma Nazarene University, is what it is now, and it was Point Loma College at the time. And I decided on a biology degree, not really knowing what I would be doing with it. At the time, I was kind of a little fearful, honestly, because I thought I'd end up in a lab just experimenting on, oh, I don't know, amino acids or something, just sitting there with a bunch of test tubes. And I was sitting there in my senior seminar class, and I got the professor, or yeah, he announced that a former graduate, was looking for someone to help him, and so I called him up because I needed some work, and it turned out he did endangered species biology
Hmm.
in California, and so I started working for him as a really more like an intern. Um, So I was at duck hunting clubs with doing my first jobs, collecting water samples and like
Hmm.
counting little invertebrates and stuff like that. And then he started his own company, and I was hired there, and I've worked in the environmental field ever since. And I still do to this day. I'm up a little east of Los Angeles. I started in San Diego County. Now I'm a little east of Los Angeles. So I'm would call you would call me a biological consultant. I'm a biologist, but I do consulting. Anybody who needs a biologist, I'll bid on the work and win it, and hopefully and do the work. So and me and my family, I have two kids. I've been married for almost 30 years,
Hmm.
and we live in the mountains east of Los Angeles. So I'm at about 6,000 foot elevation. And it's pretty rural up here. Uh, we get bears, raccoons, mountain lions, you name it.
Hmm.
So I really enjoy it. I'm kind of in nature, so it is my element in a lot of ways. So um, my two kids are both graduated high school and they're working on their careers, and my wife and I are looking to retire in a few years, 5 to 10 years probably. Although I'm not sure I'll stop working because I love my work.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I'm in the same kind of
yeah,
position. Well, tell us a
yeah.
little
So
bit, tell us a little bit then about your pipe smoking journey. How long have you been smoking a pipe, and what got you into it?
Yeah, so growing up, I never smoked. No one in my family smoked, um, and it was kind of a forbidden thing. Actually, in my religion, which was Church of the Nazarene, we had to sign a manual to be a member that said we wouldn't smoke, wouldn't drink, wouldn't go to movies, wouldn't dance. And there was something else. Well, wouldn't play cards. So, so I actually grew up in that conservative sort of tradition. And so it was kind of like there's no way I'm going to smoke. But nevertheless, when I was a teenager, I did smoke a couple of cigarettes, and I may have smoked weed once. I'm not sure. I didn't inhale though, but no. But I never smoked a pipe, but I did smell people that smoke pipes, and I always enjoyed it the most of all the smokes I would take in,
Mm.
pipe smoke was my favorite. And looking back and after smoking a little bit myself, I think it was probably Captain Black that I was smelling. Could have been something like Sir Walter Raleigh. Who knows? It was one of those. So anyway, didn't smoke. Then about 2 years ago, I was at a garage sale after COVID started, and it was for one of our first times out, and there was a pipe at the garage sale, and I turned to my wife and said, "Hey, honey, do you mind if I buy this pipe?" And it was like a $2 pipe from China, and I noticed it was smokable, and hence the journey began. I was locked up in my house and I had nothing else to do. And so I went and got some tobacco and I tried to smoke that cheap little Chinese pipe. It was a big lawn church warden and a plastic with a terrible metal bowl.
Mm.
And I think it took me about 4 or 5 tries to get it to even light up properly. And my first tobacco was Borkham Riff cherry liqueur. I don't know why I picked that. I just went down to a local shop and bought a pouch. So, and that's just evolved from there. So that was 2 years ago. So, I'm a 2 year pipe smoker. Now
Yeah,
I have Englishes and everything. So
those metal bowled pipes are for pot.
is that right?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
don't
I
smoke
was,
tobacco very well.
no, it had a hole in the bottom, I think. Yeah. So I've still got that pipe somewhere as a reminder of just how terrible my first experience was. But I stuck with it.
Well, what blends then or types have you graduated to, I suppose, or have you shifted to over the last couple of years?
Yeah, so I first, after that terrible experience, I bought a sampler from Four Noggins for Father's Day that year. It was Memorial Day garage sale, and then after that in June, I bought a sampler. It was a corn cob, and it had some like Brits Balkan in it. It had Lane 1Q, had some other samples, and so I just did arrows for the first little bit, aromatics. And then I think it was later in the year toward Halloween, I graduated to Englishes and bought some nightcap. I
Mm.
think that was my first English.
Ooh.
Early morning pipe. I started doing some of the Peterson stuff, and then I was comfortable with that, with doing Englishes, and I started getting away from the aromatics more. And then I think I discovered YouTube around that time and started watching other pipers and listening to their stories about their journeys. And I got interested in other tobaccos, and I've just been branching out ever since. So I have a
So
big collection now.
what what YouTube channels were your gateway drug into watching pipe people online?
Mutton Chop Piper was a big important one. He was one of the first ones I discovered. There was a guy um, who's, I'm trying to think of his name, but he does kind of a lot of different videos, and I'm trying to. I wish I could remember his name, but Mutton Chop was the main one I did. Then Stuff and Things is a channel. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Hmm.
That one I discovered, and I didn't discover much of the YTPC as I know now. At that time, it took a little while, but like Paladin Piper, pretty much, you all kind of came about the same time. A lot of the other folks um, that I know and love now, that I watch all the time, came last year, I would say, or maybe late 2021. So yeah,
Yeah, Mutton Chop was probably my first pipe channel because I was just browsing, trying to figure out what in the world I was doing wrong, because I see all these people enjoying their pipes and I simply was not,
yeah,
and so I figured there had to be something on my end, and sure enough, love him or hate him,
yeah,
Mutton Chop he has done a lot in terms of putting out easy to follow instructional stuff, and then
yeah,
Paladin was one of my earliest channels that I subbed as well. I back when he was doing his cherry blend hunt, and I just got
yeah.
hooked from there. Um,
Yeah, exactly. And I remember Mutton Chop, he talked about the breathing technique, how
Hmm.
to, and that really made a big difference for me in just learning how to smoke a little slower, different cadence than just blasting through a pipe,
Hmm.
and that helped. And how to pack a pipe. I was just searching for anything, how to pack a pipe,
Yeah.
what kind of lens to use, what pipes to recommend, and I started listening to recommendations and reviews of pipe tobacco. So yeah.
Yeah. He helped me a lot. Most definitely. Um, what what would you say are your favorite blends right now?
Oh, well, my favorite blends, I think Century Blend by LJ Peretti. That's in my rotation right now. I've got the this is Father Dempsey I'm smoking right now, and that's in my rotation right now. Um, Night Train is in my rotation. I've got that sitting up there, and let's see what other one. There's a one called Scottish Blend, which is by there's a MacBaron Scottish Blend, which I don't like particularly, and this one's by Robert McConnell. And so those are kind of the four in my rotation right now. And then I've got one wild card, so I only smoke about once a day, maybe. And so I just pick another one, and it could be something from the Captain Earl series, or it could be Pembroke, like I smoked lately, or it could be something like Presbyterian. Yeah, just but the four I rotate through are all Englishes pretty much.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
I I'm pretty much the same way. I typically one or two bowls a day, and now I've gotten lately. I've gotten into smoking through a tin, at least one bowl every day for a week, just to familiarize myself with that particular blend. Um,
Hmm.
but but yeah, I have a small rotation of blends that I tend to gravitate back to as my second bowl of the day if I have to. Uh,
Yeah. Well, a lot of times I'll do back to back too. Sometimes the first bowl just wasn't satisfactory or something, and I'll just go right immediately into something else that is more of a comfort blend. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Like I'll sit like Haunted Bookshop has served that purpose for me. Sometimes it's really reliable. It sits there and it's just kind of a almost like a cleansing smoke for me. Uh, it's funny you mentioned smoking through a blend. I had never done that until last year. I think I got Sun Bear in the middle of the summer,
Mm.
and I smoked through that whole tin in the month of August last year, which is really unusual for me. I just smoked that pretty much for a whole month. I loved it so much. It was a new experience for me.
Well,
So
and it's very popular, and I know because they've made it a little bit different each year. People can keep going back to that well without getting bored or tired of it,
yeah,
because they do make them a little bit different, not exactly the same experience each time they come out with it. Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And for me, I just visited North Carolina just really recently to that time, and it just kind of reminded me. I knew it was made there, and I just like that memory. Thinking of those times driving the Blue Ridge Parkway
yeah.
and visiting all those great areas down there in the Smokies, and but kind of brought back those memories for me too.
Well, that brings me to I I neglected right off the bat to do any housekeeping. I'm smoking a little
Yeah,
Bonneville little 2 star bulldog with my own Kentucky based English in it. What are you smoking there?
this has become my favorite pipe. It's just a little basket pipe, but it's from the Sanctuary Pipe Shop up in San Luis Obispo. And I picked it up and I just love it. And I'm smoking Father Dempsey.
Very nice. Now, that's your favorite pipe. Have you gravitated toward any particular shapes or makers, carvers?
Yeah, I haven't tried a lot of makers, so but this is I guess this would be a bent billiard shape with a fishtail. Um, and so this is my favorite shape generally. I like to have the pipe in my mouth and be able to look over the bowl, you know, because I'm often doing something while I'm pipe smoking. So I like to, I'm out in my shop most of the time, and I'm doing some little project or something usually at the same time.
Well, I
So
know
I kind of like having the.
having at least a
Mhm.
gentle bend makes it easier to see what you're doing on a relight, to see,
Yeah,
spots that you may have missed on your original light, that kind of thing. It certainly can be,
yeah,
and certainly can be nifty, and they seem to hang better. I tend to smoke shorter straight pipes like this, um, but anything longer than this, and it just doesn't hang very well. Where a
yeah. And
bend,
I've got, yeah. Do you prefer the straight pipes? I've got a few of those, and I use them, but I prefer these.
I that are a very gentle bend. I'm not into a
Yeah,
deeper bend pipe. I have a couple of Oompals just to fill out my collection of Lees, but they don't get smoked very often. That
yeah.
extreme bend is just too much for me.
I can
Um,
see that. Yeah, yeah. It's it's part of the Sherlock Holmes thing. I gotta be honest. You know, you see something like that in the movies. You see
uh,
people smoke these. Typically, it's much more what I think of as a pipe.
right,
You know.
it definitely is. Now, you said you're watching YouTube videos. What got you into deciding to get on this side of the camera?
Well, you know, with the Sun Bear experience, I mentioned I actually made my first video was on a review of Sun Bear. However, it's nowhere to be found on my channel. I made that video and I was looking for a way to publish. I was really proud of this video too. It was awesome. I just thought after I'd watched a lot of folks, I'll jump in and do this. And then my house got flooded
Mm.
days after I made the video, and I think I still have the video pieces somewhere. I haven't put it back together though. So,
Uh,
but and then after all that flood and things happened, I started. Um, I'd already got the bug at that point, so I started doing videos again after things settled down a little bit with a little different format than I'd originally done. But yeah, I just felt a need after seeing folks do this like yourself, like Paladin, like Curmudgeon, you know, all the guys that I follow regularly. There's another guy, Malcolm Geets. I don't know if you follow him.
yeah,
Um, he does. Yeah, so he's great too. He was one of the almost like a living C.S. Lewis himself, you
yeah,
know.
he really
And
is.
so you know, I follow those guys. There's Spurgeon Piper, who I didn't mention before. I follow him too, and there's so many. There's too many to name almost. There, you know, I
Oh well,
I don't know how many
there are too
people I
many.
subscribe to,
Yeah.
and
Uh,
there's so many. Bound to miss them. Yeah. So, but I saw all them and thought, well, you know, I feel like these guys, I could be friends with these guys, and I think I'm going to jump in and just kind of introduce myself and be part of the pipe community. So that's really what it was about for me. Um, so, so it's like
well,
we're all in COVID, you know, we're all getting to know each other by distance. So
yeah,
it feels kind of natural at this point.
I think that was probably a big spur for a bunch of us. That was around when I jumped in. Was really just a couple of years ago when yeah, when COVID hit, and all of a sudden I'm working from home, and I've been very fortunate that that hasn't changed. I still work from
Uh,
home. In fact, I don't even have an office anymore. Our company claimed all of our office space for manufacturing, and
oh wow,
so they don't have a place to put us on
interesting.
campus. It's kind of nice, but yeah, that spurred me into it. I don't know about you. For me, the YTPC was a bit of a mind saver. Being able to connect with people
Totally agree.
in this way when we were for so for quite a while we were so isolated. Um,
Oh yeah, I need that social life,
mhm.
and it just part of working from home is that you aren't in the office and
Right.
talking with other people on a daily basis. And it's yeah, and so it's really nice to connect with folks online like this and just hear what they have to say, hear their ideas, and what their favorite blends are, what their pipes, why they like their pipe that they're smoking, and other things. There's a lot of different topics people talk about on the YTPC. It's certainly not all about pipes.
Yeah.
So, um, no,
Well, yeah, you have a huge range of interests, outside of just piping, and you've got, you mentioned people like Paladin who just does some really slick editing, and at the
unbelievable.
opposite end of the spectrum, you have people like me, and I punch record, and whatever comes out on the other end of the camera is that's what you get. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, same here, basically. I've learned to use iMovie, but that's about the extent of my technology expertise.
Yep. Same here. I edit mine. What little editing gets done in iMovie on my laptop. Uh,
Yep. That's okay though. It's just that's what makes us all unique. I love those movies, the ones like yours are, they're just kind of like, just a narrative, just someone talking,
yeah.
versus the ones that are all showy. They're different kind of things, but they're okay, you
Now,
know.
does your wife give you the same look that mine gives me? My wife looks at me and goes, "Okay, you're watching a video of a guy smoking a pipe and talking, but he's really not talking all that much, and he's not really talking about anything." And she rolls her eyes and typically goes somewhere else.
Well, my wife, she accepts my smoking. It's one of my eccentricities, you know, but she doesn't really know that I even do this. That she doesn't know that I make videos or listen to YouTube videos. I've talked about it before to her, but no, I've never like pulled someone up on YouTube and said, "Hey, honey, come look at this." So I've never. She doesn't have any idea about the white TPC really. She's got
Hmm.
her own stuff going on. I'm not
Well,
trying to hide it from her.
right. Yeah, no, my wife just doesn't care.
Pretty much that's where I'm going with. Yeah, that's where I'm going with it. So she just shrugs her. She sort of like, just gives me a look when I talk about pipes in any way. Although she did buy me last year. She bought me I collect gnomes sometimes. I sort of, it's one of my vices, I guess. I put them outside and stuff though. But she bought me a gnome smoking a pipe.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah,
And,
and
and I always remind her that it's her fault for smoking a pipe because she let me buy that pipe at the Gandalf pipe.
there you go. Um, I, your videos. What are you most comfortable doing right now in terms of the content you're doing, and do you have any ideas on where you want to take your channel?
Yeah, and I'm most comfortable doing reviews just because I have the most experience doing those at this point. I've been just doing those, but I'm going to start opening up some other things. I've got ideas. One of my upcoming series, a two-parter, I guess, is going to be about my grandpas.
Hmm.
I want to talk about both, kind of a tale of two grandpas, if you will. This has been cooking in my mind for a little while, because one of them I mentioned earlier was a missionary, and he was very against smoking. And in fact, in his autobiography, there's a poem that I'm going to share. That's about the evils of smoking. And then the other one, my other grandpa on my mom's side was a farmer, and he smoked a corn cob.
Hmm.
So I have a picture of him smoking a corn cob, and and I've got a whole bunch of information about him. He died at an early age because farmers have a rough life, basically. So I'm going to talk about him, and both my grandpas have big influence on me. So I'm going to talk about that. It's just I think if people be interested in it,
Absolutely.
family history. Family history is one of the things that really interests me when people talk about that. What's going on with their family, where they're from, and
Hmm.
you know. And then the other thing I like to do crafts, like little shop things. So I've got a couple of models that I'm going to probably build on and do a couple of things like that. So that kind of stuff. Yep.
Well, people are definitely going to be interested in both of those. I know I love listening to people sharing family stories, personal stories. That touch, it makes you feel, even though you never get to meet face to face, like you know somebody a little better when they give a little of their history, and it tells you where they came from. Uh, Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So and there's that's mainly it. I might go into might do some other things like I like reading poetry once in a while, and you can blame Malcolm for that because
Uh-huh.
I have a couple of poetry books now near my where I smoke, and I read them sometimes when I'm smoking, and some C.S. Lewis, of course. We've got some of that there too, and some other book. Boy, I've got the Book of Common Prayer there, Bible.
Yeah.
All
Well,
of it is amazingly compatible.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say, I know books in general tends to go well with pipe smoking. You know.
yeah, yeah. I've always been a reader.
Now you mentioned that you have Night Train in your current rotation, but in one of your
I do.
videos, you made it clear that that was not the inspiration for your channel name. How did you come up with your channel name?
Right. Well, I growing up, I heard of Night Train Lane. He has the most. He was a football player, so that's where I heard the name originally. He has the most interceptions in a single season. Not that I knew that, but I was always a big football fan growing up, so I knew the name. And then I was a runner. I started running about 10 years ago. I've ran marathons and
Hmm.
half marathons and stuff, and I always ran at night. And I had a method that I ran. Just counting by counting, and I had to keep a rhythm going to make myself not get injured, so I wouldn't get injured when I was really running a lot. And I started just thinking of myself as Night Train when I was honestly. So it came from marathon running and all the training
Huh.
that I did for that. And then after I have an injury that's preventing me from being able to run again, but I'm hoping to get surgery that'll fix that. Um, but as I do love running too, actually, and it's not that compatible with smoking, I realize, um, um, but so I thought of myself as that, and that when I started smoking, I realized there's also a similar idea where you're smoking. I will smoke at night, pretty much. I'm just out there after everyone else is in bed, everyone else being my wife, and 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 I also like to freight train my smokes. I just do. I enjoy that. So I tend to find smokes that I can do that with, and they aren't going to bite me. They're going to still taste good. I don't like going slow and sipping. I'm just not. That's not my personality.
Well, having an English lineup certainly would provide that. I know I tend to gravitate more toward Burleys and Kentucky-based blends for some of the same reason. I can slow down if I have to, but yeah, I tend to be a choocher. You know.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. Night Train. So I just thought I better try the actual blend, and I bought some. My first ever attempt to try it, and unfortunately I love it. So it's sort of a now there's yet another reason to have that name. So.
There you go. Well, in the YTPC, what would you say are your favorite things about the community?
Hmm. I'd say the introspection that people have on their own pipe smoking and their lives. My favorite things are a lot of the folks that I watch and that any presenters and the people in general. They think about their lives. They think about what's going on around the world around them. They're concerned about it, and they'll share that with us, and it's the same kind of thing I'm concerned with. I see changes in the world sometimes that aren't very positive, and I like to hear other people's thoughts and hear that there are other people on the same page as me, and just just it helps. There's a verse in the Bible about iron sharpening iron, and that's really that really sums it up. You know, I find my friends here on the mountain here where I live in real life, and they challenge me and they help springboard ideas in me and help me improve as a person. And I feel like that's the most important thing that YTPC brings
Yeah,
for me.
I love bouncing ideas off of people, and yeah, same thing. Hearing what other people think, whether it's um, completely unfiltered or carefully planned. Both directions
Mhm.
can be thought provoking and entertaining.
Yeah,
And
and it's also sometimes folks need prayer, or they need someone to. One of the other things I found with this participating in social media in general is you hear about other people need companionship too, and you can provide that for them.
mhm,
By just commenting on their videos, encouraging them, lifting them up. You never know if it's going to help them or not, but it feels good to help people
it does.
too.
It does.
There's that whole other side. So,
Yep.
let someone know, hey, they're doing good. Hey, you're doing good. You're good job on that, or whatever. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Now, outside of pipe smoking, what other you
Mhm.
touched on reading? What other hobbies do you have? What are your interests?
Yeah. So biology is a personal interest as well as a profession. So I go out and hike around a lot, and I do birding. So my wife and I actually take birding trips together. That was why we were in North Carolina a couple of years ago. We've also taken trips to New Jersey, Southeast Arizona, and places like that. And she takes pictures, and I look at them through my binoculars. And so it's a kind of a jointly compatible thing we do together. And and so that's one of the big one. I also like to work with my hands, so I like to do carpentry and um, just build things. I've got some homemade benches around here and other things that I've just carpentered. Most things I build in a day or two. I think about it, kind of have the plans in my head, then I just make it happen pretty
Now that
quickly. So
that would definitely make for some interesting video, especially for those of us who aren't particularly crafty. I'm always fascinating watching people who are uh, put something together just out of their head like that.
yeah, I'm working on that. I know there's a guy. I think it's Pipes of Old. He does he does workbench videos and some other videos about his workshop,
Hmm.
and I'm fascinated by those. Sometimes he does the same thing where he'll have a plan and just put something together. And yeah, a lot of YouTube videos I watch are people just doing a build on something, you know, out of their head. So my dad was an engineer, chemical engineer was his profession. He worked in the nuclear industry as that, and so he had a head for invention. He was constantly
Yeah,
inventing things around the house. I picked some of that up. So yeah, from him.
that is very interesting. Yeah, I am not a creative type in that regard. I music, yes, but anything that would actually be useful to someone, I, I'm
Yeah.
not particularly good at coming up with those kinds of ideas.
You'd be surprised how similar music is to this, though. I play piano, and I've got the family piano that I grew up with sitting in the living room. I still play it just about every day, and I play guitar. I played on our worship team at church for 10 years, and get to just acoustic guitar. And same kind of creativity goes into that.
Yeah, that's what I do right now at the piano at church.
Awesome.
That
I'm just
yeah, that's probably the only that and reading are probably the only consistent hobbies that I have had throughout my life that have lasted any amount of time have been yeah playing the piano and reading. Uh,
I'm ADHD, so I have I mean, I hate not to bring a bunch of alphabet soup out on you. Back in my day when I was a kid, they called it hyperactivity.
Yep.
So I don't think of myself as ADHD. I'm just using that word as a way to describe what I am. I have a trouble focusing on one thing or another. So I just have a bunch of different things that I do because I lose focus eventually on whatever it is I'm doing, and I need something else to jump to.
Well, that's one way to keep busy, certainly. Um, if you're
Yeah.
constantly jumping to something new and interesting.
It's also a way to drive your wife crazy, so I don't recommend it because she wants things to get done, not a bunch of projects to sit around half done. Just FYI.
Yeah, I am much better at starting things than I am at finishing them. I have
All
to admit
right.
that particular flaw myself. Um, but yeah,
Not just me then.
what's that? Oh no, it's definitely not just you. Um, I yeah, I can get interested in something just long enough to find out how difficult it is to do, and that's when the project winds up getting either um, finished early and incompletely, or set aside until I decide at some future point that I'm really going to finish it, and that future point often that does not come.
Ouch. Oh yeah, that's too familiar.
Oh, well, I hate to do this. I am getting a call on my laptop from work, so we're gonna have to wrap up. Um,
All right.
you have anything that you would like to tell our viewers here in parting?
Well, nothing's on my mind. Sorry.
Nope.
Be excellent. Be excellent to each other and party on, dudes.
A very California send off. Well, folks,
Yes.
his his link will be down below, so check him out. Give him a sub. I'm positive that you're going to enjoy it. And with that, I'll tell you what I tell you every time: light something you like. Enjoy your afternoon.